Brown University will allow a student who allegedly raped a victim on campus to return back to campus after they actually decided that he was guilty of these charges. Now, he was responsible for 4 counts of student misconduct, and his victim in this case is a student by the name of Lena Sclove. And here's exactly what he was found guilty of based on what the board found within the university. Now, I should note that this has also been reported to local police, and police are also handling the case. But in situations like this that take place on campus, the university also has to get involved. So here's what they found him guilty of. Actions that result in or can be reasonably expected to result in physical harm to a person or persons. Sexual misconduct that involves non-consensual physical contact of a sexual nature, sexual misconduct that includes one or more of the following: penetration, violent physical force or injury, and finally, illegal possession or use of drugs and or alcohol and or drug paraphernalia. Now, his victim alleges that he had choked her twice and raped her after a party that took place on campus. Now, even though they found him guilty of all these things, they decided to punish him by suspending him from campus for 1 year. After that happened, the victim appealed because she didn't agree. She thought that that wasn't enough time, especially because that meant that they would be going to school at the same time. And during the appeal, he actually remained on campus. The judge decided, no, 1 year suspension is enough. And effectively, he only got suspended for 1 full semester because he remained on campus during the appeal process.
I literally don't understand. Look, if it was charges, you got to give people benefit of the doubt, innocent until proven guilty, et cetera. Just because somebody says it's rape, you can't just absolutely trust that. The gravity of the crime does not mean the certainty of the offense,
exactly.
Right? So you can't just say, oh, murder, so it must have been that person, right? So, but in this case, they found him guilty. So where's the question? I'm confused. So Brown allows rapists back on campus? Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. And I think the worst part about all of this is it's not an isolated case. Right now, a lot of the Ivy League schools are dealing with backlash because they treat cases like this in a similar fashion. There'll be a victim, the victim will come forward, and the board will review the case and they will decide, hey, you know what, there was wrongdoing here. But usually the punishment does not fit the crime. The punishment is too light. And I'm really unsure as to why they do that, because it's not like Brown University has a shortage of students that want to go there. Think about that. They have limited space for students, right? And how many people want to go to this Ivy League school that deserve to go there? Here you are having a rapist or someone that you think raped one of your students. You're allowing him to come back on campus and basically saying that, hey, you know what, his behavior was bad, but it's not that bad for us to expel him. He shouldn't be there. If you think that he did this, he should not be there.
Yeah, and look, to be even clear, it's not that they think that he did it. They adjudicated that he did it.
Yeah.
They came to a conclusion that he raped that girl, and she's still on campus. It's a no-brainer. I'm just confused as to why this would even be an issue, let alone the fact that it went the other way and he was allowed back on.
So part of the problem here, Cenk, is that we're getting university officials involved. University officials are not trained to be lawyers. They're not trained to be judges. They're not trained in the legal process, right? You bring actual legal professionals in the case, and then you either convict him or you find that he's innocent, right? I hate that it has to go to a university board, and I understand why that happens. Usually when it comes to justice, it's not a short process. It takes a very long period of time. Right now, officials are still investigating it. They're trying to decide whether or not they should convict him based on these allegations, right? And so in that time, what does the university do? Do they get rid of him? Do they keep him on campus while he's being investigated? They don't know. But nonetheless, it's really difficult for you to take a university board and say, all right, now you adjudicate. You decide whether or not this guy should be convicted of rape. That's a difficult situation to put them in. And also, since they're not legal professionals, I don't think that they're properly trained in what the appropriate punishment should be.
Look, there's no point in having the board decide that he did do the rape if you're not going to act based on it.
Exactly.
If you're going to say, okay, well, we decided that, so go ahead and take a semester off. That doesn't really do it, right? So, and let's say he didn't do it, right? Let's say for whatever crazy reason that he didn't do it. Okay, so yes, that's terrible for him as it takes time to go through this process, and then when he's vindicated, then he can come back on, right? But it's not at the beginning of the process.
Mm-hmm.
We've already got a board saying you did it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it should lean the other way. In the beginning, when you have no adjudication, it leans in the favor of the person who's been charged, right? But once you have some sort of declaration, it's crazy to let him back on campus.
Yeah.
Maybe he could win another day, but he can't win today.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to know that he's returning to campus fall of 2014 while, his victim is going to be there. And now she's saying, look, I cannot be on the same campus as him. I'm going to run into him. It's really uncomfortable. He literally choked me and raped me, and now I have to face him while I'm trying to get my education. So it sucks that the victim now has to leave the school and look for another place to get her education. That's the way the story turns out. And just one final point on this, I want to give you guys another example of a college that dealt with a case similar in a very inappropriate way. From the 2008-2009 academic year to 2012-2013 at Harvard College, 5 students were required by the administrative board to withdraw from the undergraduate school due to sexual behavior.
Social behavior.
Social behavior, which is sexual, right? So that is just a few of the students that had allegations brought against them, and the board reviewed them, and they realized, hey, you know what? We have a bunch of students who are found guilty of doing these things, but for some reason, we're only going to expel just a handful of them. So there's like this weird double standard, and no one can understand why it is. No one can understand the reasoning, probably because they're not legal professionals.
Right. And there's also power dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
God knows who the parents of those kids are. I mean, if they're going to Ivy League schools, we have no idea, but their parents could be connected.
Yeah.
Look, I went to Ivy League schools and my parents were not connected, but it is certainly possible. And in my time there, did I run into some people who had connected parents? You betcha. Mm.